Hey guys, I'm Jared, and today we're talking about what's new in board gaming as of January 18th, 2023. I'll be covering the latest news, announcements, most played games, hot new Kickstarters, and crowdfunded games, and more related to board gaming for the past couple weeks. These normally come out on Fridays, but I've been traveling for a new job, so today's coming out on a Wednesday. At the end, I'll also be sharing what's going on behind the scenes with my YouTube channel, Meeple Mentor. So stick around, we've got a lot to cover. Leave me a like and comment on what kinds of updates that you want to hear more about. To make sure that you don't miss my news updates, new video tutorials, and our podcast episodes, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and your preferred streaming platform. Let's get started with some crowdfunding with games on Kickstarter. If you're looking for a conversational card game to encourage players to engage in introspection around the intersectionality of socio-political themes, Discomfort is the game for you. The topics of conversations can range from gender, race, career, elitism, family, relationships, and more. Let the conversation flow naturally and enjoy each other's company. Learn and discuss new perspectives together. You may find yourself digging deep and sharing intimate details about yourself and your beliefs. The goal of Discomfort is the conversation. This game's for ages 18 and up and plays for 20 to 60 minutes and is suitable for 2 to 5 players. You can back it on Kickstarter until January 29th. Spell Wars is a fast-paced party game inspired by the 8 schools of magic from D&D. With simple rules, diverse outcomes, and entertaining gameplay, it's great for anywhere, anytime, with anyone. Each player's turn consists of a spell-casting phase, a monster phase, and a draw phase. The last player with hit points wins. This fast-paced game is for 2 to 4 players, and you can back it on Kickstarter until February 2nd. Are you a lover of social deduction and strategy, but enjoy a bit of chaos thrown into the mix? Chesney has a dual faction system and various characters and hand cards. All unique games will see players using their cunning and strategy each round to outmaneuver their opponents. After 3 rounds of independent games, the player with the highest score wins. 3 rounds last 70 to 110 minutes altogether. It's for 4 to 10 players ages 12 and up. It's funding on Kickstarter until January 24th. Play, Rewind, Eject is a tabletop card game that utilizes the mechanics of the popular schoolyard turned internet sensation Kiss, Marry, Kill, paired with a social deduction mechanic and themed with movies from pop culture. It's for up to 8 players with 3 game modes and is funding on Kickstarter until January 24th. Orc Quest Warpath is a campaign-driven cooperative dungeon crawler with fresh features of gameplay and orcs. You play as the orcs in this game for 1 to 6 players. Choose a class and embark on a campaign to save the orc people from humans. Storm towns and castles to fight humans, elves, rats, the undead, anyone that stands in your way. It's for ages 14 and up and plays in 90 minutes, backing until January 18th. More for the social deduction fans, in Among Cultists, 4 to 8 investigators try to prevent a secret ritual at the university. Your character moves through the university, following your own hidden agenda, lying about it if you have to. Face encounters, but with no player elimination. Each round, a random event is triggered that can throw a kink into your plans. With actions, choose between a character ability or room action. You only have 10 rounds to reach the necessary points or vote out all cultists. It's for ages 14 and up and plays in 45 to 90 minutes. You can back it on Kickstarter until February 3rd. The Circadian's First Light Specialists expansion is funding on Kickstarter till January 19th. While this expansion and the Chaos Order Harbingers expansion will both be coming to retail, the upgrade kit for First Light First Edition will only be available via Kickstarter. Some new features include new specialist dice and outposts for powerful actions and added versatility when assigning dice, 2 additional factions to negotiate with, and 12 new leader cards, plus much more. A co-op sci-fi fantasy themed dungeon crawler with a persistent campaign is found in Phantom Epoch. 40-plus missions see players experiencing character progression, tactical combat, and more in this 1 to 4 player game for ages 14 and up. The experience is 45 minutes per player, and it's funding on Kickstarter until March 11th. Fairy of Perfume is a game centered around creating the perfect bouquet of fragrance cards in order to captivate the fragrant fairies. Players will roll tokens out of a jar and take actions based on chosen stones, earn money to buy fragrant gemstones, and borrow the power of fairies for a high score. This game is for 2 to 4 players ages 6 and up and plays in 30 minutes. You can back it on Kickstarter until February 9th. It's centuries after the fall of our civilization and the last Doge, and a few rare humans are trying to find a lost treasure in a dried-up Venice. Find treasure in the various districts, represented by flipped tiles on the board. Rare artifacts and manipulation of the Doge to attack your competitors are alternate routes to victory. It's for 2 to 5 players and plays in 45 minutes. You can back it on Kickstarter until February 9th. The Starlings, a graphic novel escape room, is half graphic novel, half escape room. It's an immersive narrative, then when characters hit obstacles in the book, you must solve intricate puzzles for the story to continue. It's for 1 to 4 players ages 10 and up and plays in 2 to 4 hours. It's funding on Kickstarter until February 9th. Panda Mia is the first comics yellow panda card game in the world. It is totally unpredictable and highly strategic. It's played with 2 to 5 players, with players doing what they can to avoid infection and survive. It's for ages 7 and up and plays in 15 minutes. You can back it until January 23rd. Green Planet is a simultaneous dice selection game that combines an easy-to-learn rule set, fast playtime, and difficult decisions. Complete power lines and mid-game objectives to score points. It's for 1 to 6 players ages 8 and up and plays in 45 minutes, funding on Kickstarter until January 21st. For a free-for-all fighting card game full of chaos, carnage, and waffles, check out Total Frayhim on Kickstarter, funding until February 11th. Each champion has a unique deck of 30 cards, a story quest, and a unique ability and passive that defines their playstyle. When your champion dies, you turn into a ghost. Haunt those who harmed you out of spite, or help your friends so they can harm your backstabbing enemies instead, out of spite. It's for 2 to 6 players. Join the quest and explore the fog in Fog of Adventure, a unique fantasy card game featuring endless possibilities and challenging strategies. Fans of games like Talisman, Magic the Gathering, and RimWorld will enjoy this game, which was created using AI. It's for 2 to 6 players ages 16 and up and plays in 20 to 60 minutes. You can back it on Kickstarter until February 4th. Getting into the industry news, Wizards of the Coast has revealed that it has canceled at least 5 video games, the names of which are yet to be released. Despite recently building 6 video game studios across the USA, Wizards will be cutting back its video game release cycle. The fantasy RPG Dungeons & Dragons will be adapted into an 8-episode-long series by Rawson Marshall Thurber, the writer, director, and producer of the 2021 Netflix movie Red Notice. The Dungeons & Dragons television series will join Dungeons & Dragons Among Thieves, the most recent movie adaptation of the RPG. A Catan fan has created their own robot arm that's capable of playing the classic board game. Johnny Ramsdell, known as @JohnRamsdell18 on Twitter, tweeted a video of a robot arm they had engineered playing the family board game Catan. The video depicts the robotic arm picking up components found within the board game, such as roads and settlements, and placing them in their appropriate places on a Catan board. Cluedo will be receiving a major facelift that, among other things, reimagines the cast of suspects from stuffy erudites to modern thirst traps. For starters, the physical board will be expanded to a 20 by 20 inch play space, and the box will contain diegetic information about the blackmail Body has collected on all of his unwitting guests. Hasbro says players can scan the box for hints at a wider conspiracy. Gone are the dinky pawns and flimsy weapons, replaced with sculpted miniatures depicting the suspects and their eponymous colors and metallic implements, respectively. Fans can expect to get their murder-loving mitts on the reimagined Cluedo sometime in 2023. The video game version of the King's Dilemma board game is set to be released by the end of the month. After being officially announced in July 2022, The King's Dilemma Chronicles, a video game adaptation of the Legacy board game originally published in 2019, has been given a final release date of January 30th. The next board game from Exploding Kittens Studio is a word game where players shout. Really Loud Librarians is an upcoming board game that combines wordplay with yelling. Designed to support groups of over 2 players, Really Loud Librarians sees players splitting into teams in order to reach the game's shared goal before the opposing team. Gen Con LLC has announced that they have dropped vaccination and mask requirements for Gen Con 2023. Organizers still encourage attendees to be vaccinated, and they reserve the right to change this policy should the conditions arise that would warrant doing so. They will monitor the Marion County Department of Public Health and the CDC for recommendations for appropriate safety measures as the convention draws nearer. Gen Con organizers also posted key dates for the convention. Badges can be purchased on January 29th, beginning at noon Eastern Standard. Kenneth Haidt, lead designer of Vampire the Masquerade 5e under White Wolf Publishing, was shot in the leg as he headed home at after 3 a.m. January 6th in the Hyde Park neighborhood of Chicago, Illinois. The bullet went clean through his leg, missing bones and any major blood vessels. Haidt is currently recovering at home. In other news, after a furious response, Wizards of the Coast has issued a statement on House Organ D&D Beyond delaying the release of its new version of the Open Gaming License, which allows publishers and designers to use Dungeons & Dragons mechanics for their game, and promising changes from the draft leaked last week. Wizards of the Coast is abandoning 2 of the controversial provisions in the leaked draft of the OGL: royalties for publishers using the OGL to produce games, and WOTC's demand that would be allowed to use OGL content created by others for its own purposes without permission or payment. Lucky Duck Games has inked a distribution agreement with Asmodee USA that allows for Asmodee to provide exclusive distribution to mass market and e-commerce outlets, including Amazon, mass merchant e-com sites, and sister company Miniature Market, and non-exclusive distribution to independent hobby game, toy, and gift stores. As an initial manifestation of the new agreement, Lucky Duck's Chronicles of Crime will appear at Target in the spring 2023 season. At PAX Unplugged 2022, Cephalofair revealed the next big Gloomhaven project, a tabletop role-playing game within the award-winning universe. The planned sourcebook will give your GM or Gloom Master all the tools and world-building elements they need to tell infinite stories in the world of Gloomhaven by designer Isaac Childress. Even more exciting, the RPG will feature gameplay and combat using cards just like the board game, while also offering support for out-of-the-box solutions. Players can combine any class from Gloomhaven, Frosthaven, and Jaws of the Lion with any ancestry. Next, let's look at newly announced games and expansions coming to retail. Hatchet Board Games has announced a March 1st release date for Sorry We Are French's head-to-head card game Gosu X. In this 2-player card game, players seek to prove their worth to 8 immortals that rule the universe of J-Links through battle. It takes about 20 minutes to play and is intended for ages 14 and up. In other Hatchet news, they will release Kawali, an abstract strategy game by Gigamic, into retail on February 1st. Kawali is a simple yet tactical game where players place stones on a board in order to be the first to get 4 of their stones in a row. This game is for 2 players ages 8 and up and plays in 15 minutes. The new Zombicide Running Wild expansion will be hitting the streets on January 13th. Designed for use with CMON's Zombicide Undead or Alive, the game's Wild West variant, this expansion introduces new mounted characters who can explore on foot like normal survivors or ride on horseback to move faster and better evade the zombies. It supports games with up to 6 players. A copy of the base game is needed to play. Asmodee has also set a January 6th release date for Sabika, a Rondel-based game coming from Ludonova. In Sabika, the players become nobles of the Nasrid, seeking to gain prestige by assisting in the construction of the magnificent towers, gardens, and palaces of the Alhambra, while simultaneously overseeing the development of trade routes between Europe and the Maghreb and arranging the tribute payments to the Catholic monarchs in exchange for military protection. Sabika is intended for 1 to 4 players ages 14 and up and plays in about an hour and a half. CMON will release 5 Zombicide Dark Knights metal packs for Zombicide 2nd Edition into retail January 20th via Asmodee. The Zombicide Dark Knights metal packs feature miniatures of characters from DC's popular Dark Knights metal comic book series. In further Asmodee news, they revealed Dream Quest, a family game by Space Cow, which released in the US January 13th. Dream Quest is a parent-child cooperative game where they work together to overcome challenges and complete quests in a fantasy world. The game is for 2 players, ages 10 and up, and plays in 30 to 60 minutes. Archona Games will release Magna Roma, a new city-building board game into US retail January 19th. In Magna Roma, players compete to build the greatest Roman city. On their turn, players place city tiles into their budding cityscape, with each the newly placed tile connected to at least one of the previously added tiles. This game is for 1 to 4 players ages 12 and up and plays in 30 to 90 minutes. 25th Century Games unveiled Gacha, a new set collection card game for retail in the US January 25th. The card game mimics the experience and excitement of opening up toys from Japanese toy dispensers. On each turn, players either draw 2 cards or trade a set of Gacha cards in for a reward card. The reward cards are worth in-game points and can give the player bonuses. The players with the most points at the end of the game wins. This easy-to-learn game features anime-style art and is good for family game night. Gacha is for 2 to 6 players ages 7 and up and plays in 20 minutes. Fireside Games will release The Wizard's Tower 2E, a Castle Panic 2E expansion, into retail January 25th. In this expansion, Thalgar, a friendly wizard, joins the battle, allowing players access to a powerful deck of spell cards while his tower is still standing. The expansion also adds magical imps, evasive flying creatures, fire-breathing monsters, and more for players to fight against. The expansion also has 6 new mega boss monsters, including the dragon and necromancer. It also adds a fire attack that will roast monsters, but may also burn down part of the castle. The Wizard's Tower expansion, when added to the base game, supports 1 to 6 players, ages 8 and up, and plays in 60 minutes. Thunderworks Games will release Goblin Vaults, a new fantasy card game, into retail February 23rd. In Goblin Vaults, players try to win loot and stash it away. Players wager cards in an attempt to gain loot from the central cell block and then add it to their own vault. They earn gears based on the position of cards in their vault, as well as by completing scoring objectives. This game features bidding and card placement mechanics combined with scoring patterns. The game ends after 9 rounds, and the player with the most gears wins. The game is for 1 to 5 players ages 14 and up and plays in 45 minutes. Thunderworks Games also announced Dawn of Ulos, a fantasy tile placement game for release into retail in Q3. Dawn of Ulos is an economic tile placement game set in the world of role player and cartographers. The goal of the game is to earn favor as the world's creator. This game is for 1 to 5 players ages 14 and up and plays in 60 to 90 minutes. Schmidt Spiel unveiled Chaos and Gotham City, a new Batman villain trick-taking game, which will be released in Q1. In this game, players take on the roles of villains who are out to bring havoc upon Gotham City. The goal of the game is to create chaos in Gotham by scoring chaos points over the course of gameplay. Once the tricks have been played out, the player with the most Batman points scores no chaos points. This game lasts as many rounds as there are people playing. At the end of the game, the player with the most chaos points wins. The game is for 2 to 6 players ages 8 and up and plays in 15 to 30 minutes. Tims and Cosmos revealed The Lord of the Rings Adventure to Mount Doom, a new cooperative board game for release into retail Q2. In this narrative-based game, players head off on Frodo's quest to destroy the One Ring in the fiery belly of Mount Doom. Movement of the characters is determined by colored dice that represent the number of spaces each character can travel on a turn. The black dice trigger threats and encounters to occur, which are displayed on encounter cards. If players manage to get to Mount Doom, they win the game. This game is for 1 to 4 players, ages 10 and up, and plays in 50 minutes. In other Tims and Cosmos news, they will release Exit the Game, The Disappearance of Sherlock Holmes, into US retail in Q2. In The Disappearance of Sherlock Holmes, Dr. Watson has turned to players to search for evidence after Sherlock Holmes becomes a prime suspect for murder and disappears. The story revolves around the untimely death of the famed journalist Ignatius Lloyd, who was murdered after he published an article claiming Sherlock Holmes was an imposter. The leads point to Holmes as a suspect, but Dr. Watson believes otherwise and sends the players off to investigate the case riddle by riddle. This game is for 1 to 4 players ages 12 and up and plays in 1 to 2 hours. Tim's and Cosmos also unveiled My City Roll and Build, a new city building game for release into retail Q2. In the roll and build version, players roll dice to determine which building they draw on their gamepad. Players will develop their city and face new challenges in each of 12 episodes. The early episodes are about land development, and later on, gold is discovered and the players will have to protect the town from bandits. This game is for 1 to 6 players ages 10 and up, and plays in 30 minutes. Additionally, Tim's and Cosmos revealed Robin Hood, Friar Tuck in Danger, a new expansion for the Adventures of Robin Hood board game, which hits stores in summer 2023. The Adventures of Robin Hood is a cooperative, story-based board game where players take on the roles of Robin and his merry men. In the new expansion, Friar Tuck arrives to provide aid to Robin and his band with his special skills. However, the west of Nottinghamshire comes under siege by old adversaries, and the merry men have to save King Richard once again. The expansion contains 4 new adventures and an even larger game board for players to move about freely on. The core game plus this expansion supports 2 to 4 players ages 10 and up and plays in 60 minutes. They've also announced 3 more titles in its Exit series for release in 2023, including Exit the Game, The Professor's Last Riddle in March, Exit the Game Kids, Jungle of Riddles in June, and Exit the Game Advent Calendar, The Silent Storm for later in the summer. Eagle Gryphon will release Railways of Sweden and Railways of Australia into US retail in Q2. Railways of Sweden and Railways of Australia add the rugged landscape of these 2 countries to the Railways of the World series. Sweden's a 2 to 5 player map and features lots of mountainous terrain and comes with a sheet of snowy track tiles as an option for the northern mountains of Sweden. It also comes with new railroad operations cards and new +50, +100 point tokens to be used with the score and income track. Railways of Australia comes with a larger 2 to 6 player map that has town terrain types and region borders. It also contains Rebound railroad operations cards that automatically build out 10 towns on the map. Additionally, the expansion has junction track tiles for use with the Switch Tracks mini expansion. Ares Games will release Cangaceros, a bandit strategy game by Ergo Ludo Editions, into retail in April 2023. In Cangaceros, players control the chief Cangaceros and their gangs attempting to survive in the Caatinga arid lands. The player with most fame points at the end of the game wins. This game is for 2 to 5 players ages 13 and up and plays in 60 minutes. In other Ares Games news, they are publishing the 2-player title Saigon 75 from designers Jean-Philippe Barkas and Pascal Toupi. Originally released by Nuts Publishing, Saigon 75 simulates the fratricidal war between North and South Vietnam between 1973 and 75, balancing the differences between the 2 sides and incorporating such aspects as morale, desertion, and numerous outside forces at play. The game is packed with just a few simple rules and plays in an hour, with event cards ensuring just enough randomness for replayability. Saigon 75 should hit retail by February. A follow-up to Castles of Mad King Ludwig is in the works that uses vellum and drafting pencils instead of tiles to construct the eponymous monarch's inscrutable home demands. Announced January 9th by publisher Betsier Games as Blueprints of Mad King Ludwig, the upcoming board game will retain the core interactions of its predecessor while folding a few new wrinkles into the mix. The most prominent of these is trading the tile placement mechanic for sketching room designs onto vellum paper by sliding cards underneath the sheets. Blueprints of Mad King Ludwig will crowdfund via Kickstarter beginning February 7th, but a proceeding retail date is not yet known. Looney Labs revealed Around the World Flux, a new travel-themed version of the classic card game which will hit retail May 5th. Much like Across America Flux, players head off on a tour, but this time they will be out to explore the world. It features man-made wonders from all of the continents, as well as noted locations like the Galapagos Islands, the Panama Canal, and the Statue of Liberty. It also offers players a bonus mini-timeline and is compatible with Across America Flux. Devere Games will release Jerusalem Anno Domini, a board game, into retail in April. In Jerusalem Anno Domini, players travel in time back 2,000 years to relive the Last Supper. They will take charge of one of the different clans in Jerusalem, looking to get a seat at the dinner table closest to Jesus and the apostles. They will collect stones, bread, fish, and dinars, as well as make complex decisions in order to gain favor. The game features a mix of mechanics that include deck building, set collection, worker placement, and resource management. This game is for 1 to 4 players ages 12 and up and plays in 90 minutes. Publisher Spill Lab, with designers Eisuke Fujinawa and Kazunori Hori, have announced the dexterity game Planapita. Planapita is a disc-flicking game with players trying to get their discs into the center of the target board. The discs, however, are two-sided and magnetic. Players can flip their disc over after flicking it onto the board, making the magnet stick more firmly. And this matters since opponents can knock your discs off the board. Flip discs, however, are not worth as many points as those still magnet side up. Planapita was shown off at the Tokyo Game Market in April after raising over 1 million yen on the Japanese crowdfunding site Campfire. A second edition of Planapita is now available in Japan. Publisher Z-Man Games has confirmed the English version of Mists Over Carcassonne coming soon. Carcassonne, winner of the 2001 Spiel des Jahres, has had numerous expansions and big box collections over the decades, but until now, never a cooperative version. Players work together through 6 levels of challenges, placing tiles, and trying to stop the spread of ghosts and contain haunted ground within cemeteries. Mists Over Carcassonne comes with 45 meeples in 2 types and 30 new tiles featuring the new art style begun in the 2021 edition of Carcassonne. Mists Over Carcassonne was originally slated to release in January and additionally includes instructions for integrating the components into the competitive game as an expansion. Trivial Pursuit Dungeons & Dragons Ultimate Edition is being released by publisher The Op, Masters of IP Integration. The title incorporates facts from D&D versions 1 through 5 and over 1,800 questions covering 6 categories: magic and miscellany, history, monsters, dungeons and adventures, characters, and cosmology. Trivial Pursuit Dungeons & Dragons Ultimate Edition should be available in retail now. Publisher Grand Gamers Guild has a complete line of holiday-themed micro-deck escape room games. The Holiday Hijinks series so far includes the Kringle Caper, the Independence Incident, the Pumpkin Problem, the Cupid Crisis, and the Birthday Burglary. But wait, there's more. Holiday Hijinks number 6 is the Groundhog Gambit, designed and illustrated by Jonathan Schaffer. On a cold February morning, you find yourself trapped in the professor's manor, faced with the results of his experiments with time itself. Can you break the loop and escape? This latest app-driven escape room game is available now from the Grand Gamers Guild website. Let's talk for a bit about what's happening on the Meeple Mentor YouTube channel. First, did you know we have a Patreon page? It's available for fans of the podcast and channel to pledge as a patron and support us here. There's various pledge levels for small monthly support that helps grow the channel's content. You can get access to new content early. You'll get to vote on new game tutorials that come out on the channel and more. Head to Patreon at patreon.com/MeepleMentor. On the YouTube channel, I published a lot of new unboxing videos you may have missed. Most of them came from the Barnes & Noble sale for 50% off. I did one for Picture Perfect, Land vs. Sea, The Game of Wolf, Wonderland's War, Cryptid Urban Legends, Obscurio, Great Western Trail Argentina, and First Rat. The last tutorials I published were for Tekenu, Obelisk of the Sun from Board and Dice, and Bad Company by Aporta Games. I included solo modes in those as well, of course. I made a recommendation video for the off-the-shelf series on the bluffing game Skull. I think everyone can enjoy it, and it plays very quickly. Holly and I reviewed Obsession, Pride, Intrigue, and Prejudice in Victorian England 2nd edition by Dan Halligan. It's a fantastic game of hosting extravagant events at your family estate. Check it out. I started a new job that will put me at 45 or more hours per week, which I expect to definitely impact how much time I have to produce content for the channel. I will do the best I can to keep up the same pace I've done for 3 years, but if videos are delayed or spaced out longer, that's why. Thanks for tuning in to today's news update. I appreciate your support. And remember, teach when you can, but always be learning. See you next time.